Hi, my name's Chris Erskine, and Hermitage ruins. The minute you take your eye off something, that's when everything happens. So today is August 18th, and in the last month, the as you know from my previous reports on this, the Heritage Permits Committee rejected the Hamilton Conservation Authority's request to partially demolish the Hermitage ruins. They wanted to reduce the ruins to a height of about 3 feet, except for the area around the doorway, which would extend a little bit higher to maybe 6 or 8 feet. But basically all the walls that you see at the Hermitage ruins site, except for the gatehouse, would be reduced down to a height of 3 feet. Their argument on this was twofold. One, there's a safety hazard. They're worried about the walls being unstable and might be falling down. And then two, that people are climbing on the walls, and this creates an insurance liability issue. And essentially both these arguments come down to money. The cost to paying for the insurance and the cost of doing restoration. Now they have allocated about just under $200,000 to do the restoration work, which they say is restoration work. In my view, that sounds, given the extent that they're requesting to demolish reduce the walls, it's partial demolition. And the $200,000 are roughly thereabouts, between $150,000 and $200,000 ballpark, would be the cost, the same amount of money that it would cost to demolish the structure completely. So they went before the Heritage, the Permits Review Committee, and asked for permission to a partial demolition permit, and they were turned down. And I had the impression that it wasn't going to go to the Heritage Committee till probably in the fall, but apparently it went in, I gather, July or August. I'm not sure which was the actual meeting date. And at that meeting, good for the Heritage Committee, they also recommended against approving the request from the Hamilton Conservation Authority. This is my understanding based on reports by Joey Coleman on the web. So this then it went to the Planning Committee, which I believe met on August 12th, and staff recommended approval of the request from the Conservation Authority, and the committee recommended, which includes city politicians on that, recommended that the permit be granted and the work go ahead. Then it went to City Council on Friday, August 15th. That's my understanding, although I didn't think they met on Fridays. But and the decision was deferred to the fall. Sorry, maybe it's not the City Council, but anyhow, this decision was deferred. I shouldn't say it was deferred to the fall, but it was deferred, and so I don't know when the issue is now going to be raised again. So the Hermitage ruins continue to be in limbo, and there's been some other developments. A young lady has started a Facebook page based on the Planning Committee's decision to recommend the partial demolition of the ruins, and that's really positive. And they've got, I think, around 165 people already associated with that Facebook page, and that's excellent. And I hope to post this to there. So a lot of development in a very short time, and again, how does anyone keep track of these things? You know, how do you know that you know, maybe I was asleep at the switch or at the wheel, because I tried to follow these things and I didn't know it was going to come up at the Hermitage Committee, and then I didn't the Heritage Committee, I'm sorry, and I didn't know it was going to come up at the Permits Committee. Oh, in a month at a time, and I've been trying to follow this very closely. Again, I've been very busy with my art, so I probably wasn't quite as attentive as I should have been, but I have scanned what was on the web, and I don't really see a lot of advance notice about that. Again, I may be wrong about that. Maybe there was, and I haven't found it yet, but it really caught me off guard. And so, but at the very least, there's still time, and you know, and it is a very interesting situation where Councillor Brian Mahoney, who's a mayoral candidate and was the chair of the Hamilton Conservation Authority, is in favor. This again based on what I've seen on the web, and again, if I'm mistaken, I apologize. He's in favor of it, and Lord Ferguson of Lancaster is against it. And good going, Lloyd. I'm very pleased. I wasn't sure whether where he would come down on that issue, but that's great news because it's a really good. Again, if you look at do any search, it's good for Lancaster. It's good for Hamilton, and I really think that there is. The Hermitage ruins is a great attraction. It really involves a lot of history and in Hamilton, and brings tourists in the community. If you do any sort of searches online, you'll see people who are blogging about going to the ruins. You know, hikers who come through the area, and they say it's a great spot. You got the legions of ghost paranormal fans who blog and comment about this site. It's very famous because of its rich Gothic history, basically, which is excellent. The other issues, I find, as I've mentioned before, it's a really good teaching site, because unlike a lot of heritage buildings, this is way out in the woods. You really get a sense of what the pioneer days would have been like. Even the wealthy were in very remote areas, and even though the town of Lancaster is only probably less than a kilometer or two away, you feel very remote when you're out there, even today. And it really gives you a sense of what 19th century Hamilton and Lancaster must have been like. And the building is also because the sulfur springs in the area was considered a tonic for a time when there wasn't antibiotics, and even the simplest scratch or operation could be a death sentence, and that many diseases were not at all understood, and so you were grasping at straws, and the sulfur springs were considered not a cure-all, but a good way of dealing with illness and trying to overcome health issues. And it was one of 3 mansions in the area built expressly for that purpose, a sort of a summer retreat, a lodge, a way to get away from things, but also to take advantage of the health benefits of the sulfur springs. So, and that's not something that's been very much promoted or advertised. And I don't know what the status is of the other 2 mansions that are supposed to be built in that sort of theme, whether they're still standing at all. And so that's an interesting point to also worth to explore. So, you know, how often do you get a piece of heritage that has so many rich areas? It's got a ghost story. It's got the woman who was living in the mansion when it burnt down, who was a descendant of the people who built the stone building that you see today. She wrote for the Spectator about heritage and about the lovely historical buildings in the area, and then her building becomes burnt down. Her home becomes burnt down, and while many today describe her as a bit of a kook, Brian Hanley, who wrote back in the early 90s an article, talked about how it was really her love of the place, that this was her family home, and she really couldn't bear in her later years to leave where she had spent all her life, that she had given up her this was where she lived and entertained and was actually a bit of a socialite. People came in from Toronto and other areas to visit her. And then when the fire happens and she loses much of her property, she decides to build within the former walls of her family home, and stays there till she dies. And I think that it has a very kind of sad romantic quality to it. A person who really understood the history of Ancaster, understood the history of her home, and was in love with it and couldn't bear leaving with it. I don't consider that a kook. Only in our age would we consider that a kook. That's someone who has a real sense of memory and place, and something in my art I'm very interested in and explore. So it was a really it's a really good, valuable asset that I really think is being overlooked by many people. But I know there's many other people who share my love of the place, and I hope at the end of the day the powers that be don't support the request for partial demolition, and that the Conservation Authority invest in something that is very valuable, and I firmly believe in the long run will pay off for them as far as greater visitors to the area and the town of Ancaster, and a greater appreciation of the natural landscape that we have here. So anyhow, I wanted to update you this and let you know what's happened. It's a never-ending saga, and we haven't heard the last of it. So till next time, Chris Erskine, and please support the Facebook page. I think she's doing a wonderful job, and we need to really express to Lord Ferguson and to the Conservation Authority and to City Council that this is a really this is an asset that's too valuable to be intentionally destroyed, and that its preservation should be invested in, and the structure that it stands now should be maintained. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.